Hey, are you sure it's a wise thing to be not only doing something illegal on your homestead, but proclaiming it to thousands, whoever's watching your videos? Hey there, folks. I'm Sean the Modern Yeoman, and we got a lot to do, as we always do, putting up some panels in the attic. Henry and I are putting wrinkly old potatoes in the ground, clearing off brush to burn for a future Korean natural farming system for future pigs, hatching out more eggs. There's all these things that we're doing, and we'll talk about these in the video. But before I talk about anything else, I want to address a claim that a viewer sent along that I was potentially doing something illegal on the homestead. Were they right? Am I doing something illegal on the homestead? Let's back up a little bit. So for the past few episodes, I've had a side quest of sorts, putting up gutters on my barn. Now, I actually set up gutters on the other side of this lean-to, which I was a little unsure of. They were old gutters that I was reusing, and they were sketchy at the joints, but it turns out they actually work great. We had some heavy downpours recently. We're in a window between storms right now. Believe it or not, they actually do the job. You can see the footage. There's minimal leakage on those nasty old gutters I set up. So that's awesome. But kind of in tandem with this discussion is our rainwater collection efforts here at the homestead. We have a couple of different ways that we collect rainwater. One of the main ways that we do it is here on the west side of our north lean-to. We've got this gutter here that collects all the rain off this metal roof. It goes down through this PVC and in to this IBC tote. I forget how many gallons, but it's a lot. I mean, when it's filled up, it's over a ton of water. And we've been using this water to water our chickens and to water the garden. We also have these rain barrels that I put up years ago. It's one of my first projects here at the Homestead that collects water that comes in off the metal roof of our house. Never really thought about the legality of this system. I always just assumed it was something I'm doing on my own land. It's not even like we're really drinking it. I suppose we could, if we were in a pinch, we could take this water, put it through our Berkey filter, and use it, like I said, in an extreme pinch. But it's just for our animals and for our garden, and who cares, right? It's just making use of the hundreds of thousands of gallons that land on these roofs during any particular rainstorm, and there are many rainstorms. I thought I was just harnessing nature. Now, I remember hearing years ago a rumor that it was illegal to collect rainwater, to harvest rainwater, but I never really looked into it that much. It was something that I just kind of thought was a fake internet rumor, something that surely wouldn't apply to me here in my homestead, just innocuously collecting rainwater for my garden. Well, it turns out a viewer reached out to me, and I don't have the email in front of me. I'll flash it on screen. But he basically said, hey, he linked to, I believe it was a Reddit thread where it said pretty unequivocally that harvesting rainwater in Tennessee is illegal. And I was like, yeah, whatever, this can't be right. And then I looked into it and kind of breezed through the comments of this thread, and sure enough, there was a lot of people saying it's illegal to harvest rainwater in Tennessee. And then it linked to another source, I think an Instagram post, where a lot of people were saying it's illegal to harvest rainwater in Tennessee. And so the gist of this guy's email was, hey, are you sure it's a wise thing to be not only doing something illegal on your homestead, but proclaiming it to thousands, whoever's watching your videos? You're publicly putting it out there that you're breaking the law on your homestead. Suddenly, I went from not really caring about this thing, not really thinking about it too much, to being like, oh shoot, maybe there is something to this. So I dug into it. It didn't take me long to find the specific bills, at least for the state of Tennessee. I think it's State Bill 2417. I put it on the screen, that specifically allows for the use of rainwater collection. And I'd go so far as to say that it's encouraged in this state. I know there's one municipality, I think it's Chattanooga, which isn't that far from here, that actually gives rainwater collection systems to its citizens. It gives benefits to people that are collecting rainwater. It encourages them to use it. Now, I'm not in Chattanooga, I'm not in that county, but I'm close enough to think that the laws here are probably somewhat similar. I just want to start the video off by making it extra clear to everyone and especially to the I think well-meaning person that wrote me. It is indeed legal to collect rainwater in Tennessee. Now, what about other states? What about other countries? I can't speak to them. I think there's some states out west, I believe Colorado, California, a couple of other ones that if they don't outright ban rainwater collection, they do have restrictions on it. I don't know the details because I don't live in those states. All I know is that in my own current state, what I'm doing right here is perfectly legal. It's not like I have a moonshine still down in my woods. This is a perfectly legal implement here on my homestead according to our local laws. Guess the lesson that we can learn from this is please don't believe everything you read or hear on the internet, even if it's from well-meaning people. Thanks for helping me get this up, Dad.
Yeah, proof of concept.
We just wanted to see if we could do it.
Yeah.
And we could. So obviously I struggled mightily trying to get this up by myself. Even though I added the dead man's jig or whatever you call it, that simply wasn't enough. And I had the little lips of the 2x4s that I put up there. It's still not a one-person job just because it's too floppy. I almost feel like it would have been easier if it's solid, like a piece of sheetrock.
Oh, absolutely would.
But the fact that it was flopping made it a definite two-person job. So we did it, and it's staying up there. I mean, with the liquid nails and the brads in there, it's not going anywhere. And I can see there's no visible sag. One thing that we will be doing is probably putting trim in between each seam. And Dad had brought up the point, I'm worried that if this is slightly off, then the bead in the bead board is going to start to drift at an angle. But Dad brought up a couple of good points. Number one, we're going to put trim in between each panel, something decorative and cool looking. But after you march it out back towards this nook where it's not as visible to the naked eye, then you can kind of correct for it over there. You can make
corrections further on down. Unless, if your trim is going to be wide enough, you could probably make that correction even here.
Mm-hmm.
But will it be noticeable to the naked eye that you've got all these lines here and then they're slightly different with the next panel? So, to mitigate that, you could just put this one up, the next one up flush against this, and then make the correction over where it's going to be less visible.
Less visible, yep. So I wanted to make sure that we could actually do this because I wasn't sure if we could. And I was thinking, oh man, we may have to go a different route, but we can do it. It's doable.
It is.
It's going to require two people. So I think, we put up one panel here, two panels there, maybe get a weekend where we put a bunch up.
Yep.
There's brad nails. There's little brad marks noticeable. Mm-hmm. And that's okay because we're going to probably spackle and paint this thing over anyways. Just give it a once over.
Pinned in there.
But looking at this, I mean, this will be an easy cleanup. And it's going to look, I think this is going to look really good.
Yeah.
There's no visible sag, which was a concern of mine.
Yeah. It seems to be adhering to those.
With the liquid nail and the, yep.
Really
okay,
well.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. So if you've been following the channel, you'll know that eventually we're going to have pigs in here again. We have had pigs in here in the past, but we will be putting pigs in here again, and I'd like to centralize them here. I may not be moving them around the homestead as much and utilize a deep bedding system. It's something I've seen in person at different farms. We went to Polyface Farm and we actually talked to Joel Salatin, where he has a dedicated pig palace, pork palace, where he has pigs living in there all the time in really deep bedding. That it's hay and straw that turns into compost. We're going to utilize a similar system here, a deep bedding system, a deep bedding pen. But we're going to utilize a slightly different take on it. It's something called Korean natural farming. It's something I just discovered. I didn't know anything about. It's actually really popular in the state of Hawaii. There's a lot of pork production, hog production in Hawaii. I actually grew up in Hawaii. A lot of people don't know that. I spent most of my youth on Oahu. There's not a lot of land there. And so people need to make use of their land. And so with smaller plots of land, they don't have as much room to spread out big pig operations. So they need to concentrate them and use deep bedding systems. And that's where I discovered this Korean natural farming. I'm not gonna get into it in this video, only to say that there's different layers that you use in a Korean natural farming deep bedding system. And the first layer is ash, charcoal. On top of that layer, you put logs. Now, why wasn't I going to use those cedar logs? All those cedar logs I cut down. Well, cedar isn't the best thing to use with animals. I think a lot of you know that. When you're trying to develop healthy microorganisms, again, I'll get into it later, but that's part of this Korean natural farming system, is developing healthy microorganisms. Cedar has a tendency to kill them. So I'm going to focus on things like oak. We've got a lot of oak around here too. Maybe sycamore, I need to look into it. But above the ash layer is logs. And then above the log layer is mulch. And then above the mulch layer is straw. It's something we're gonna get into much deeper when it comes time to get pigs again. But suffice it to say, I've got a lot of burning to do because I got a lot of ash and char to get. Because I want to layer this whole area with char and ash before I put down logs. So that's why I'm not using those cedar logs. That's why I'm burning all of them. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. By this time next week, either on Wednesday or Sunday when I post my video next, we'll have a bunch of plants either in the ground, a bunch of veggies either in the ground or ready to be put in the ground. It's that time of year. It's finally here. We're into May, so that means we're safe to put the garden together. That's what I'm really excited about, but hopefully we'll continue chipping away at the attic project, and geez, more chicks too. It all just keeps coming, and we love it. So until we see you again next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.